Welcome back everyone, I'm Marcus and today I wanted to take a trip down good old memory lane. I was looking through my stash of old Super Nintendo games and I wondered, what between all these could be considered the games that made my childhood? So I grouped them up and took out the 10 games that I would consider the best. I tried to cover as many genres as possible and tried to keep up to just one game per series. These are all games that I played since I first started, right up until my early teenage years. So, without further ado, let's celebrate my first ever console with my top 10 Super Nintendo childhood games. At number 10 is Doom. Some of you might be raising their eyebrows at this pick, but honestly, I have a soft spot for this version. It was the first time I could actually play Doom in its entirety, since the shareware version only had the first scenario. Yes, it's pixelated as hell. Yes, it has the frame rate of a PowerPoint presentation. Yes, it can't even go full screen. It's definitely inferior to the PC, but once you're able to adapt to its limitation, I feel it's a good enough port for the time, and the music still sounds amazing. A feature I legit love is the fact that you are able to carry your weapons between scenarios, which was a godsend for Inferno. And also, having the strafing on the shoulder buttons was actually really nice to use on the Super Nintendo controller. Nowadays, it's an obsolete relic, but it's the first version that allowed me to experience Doom in its entirety, and for that, I will always cherish it. At number 9 is Super Mario Kart. Another entry that might feel weird to you being this low, but there's a reason for that. Super Mario Kart is a game that I basically only played multiplayer with friends. We spend a lot of time fighting each other in battle mode, constantly throwing shells at each other in those arenas and see who will come out on top at the end. It's still tons of fun and it's a memory I cherish. But when it came to play the game single player, yeah, that was something I did on occasion, but something wasn't clicking with me. Even today I feel the controls on the carts are very slippery and I have lots of trouble playing it at 100cc. It wouldn't be until Mario Kart 64 that the series will finally click with me, even as a single player racing game. Does this mean I feel Super Mario Kart is bad? Hell no! I still like and respect the hell out of it as the humble beginnings of the best game that would kill your friendships. Even if it's not my favorite version, it still gave me a lot of great memories and I will always be grateful for that. At number 8 is Pilotwings. Now we're starting off with the games I have lots of memories on. Pilotwings was a launch title and coupled with F-Zero was a huge tech demo for the Mode 7 chip, a special chip that would allow the Super Nintendo to emulate the feeling of moving inside a 3D space. And that was the main appeal of Pilotwings, just hop on a set of courses with different vehicles or equipment and get enough of a score to move on to the next stage. I still vividly remember the first time I played it. I have no idea what inverted controls were, so I instinctively hold the up button only to see my biplane just violently crash and explode on the floor. As a kid, I was pissed. As an adult, I laughed my ass off thinking back at this. This is a game I played just to chill off. There's something about taking off and flying that is just so relaxing, especially with this music. And if you want more action, there were the helicopter shooter stages. Just fly around, blast off some turrets, and then inevitably get shot down by a rock bullet the exact moment you reach the landing spot. My favorite vehicle has always been the rocket belt, but today, after getting good enough feel for it, I feel I prefer the biplane. It's just so satisfying taking off from the runway, do a trip around the island, and then go back and landing the plane. As relaxing as this game is though, it can get surprisingly demanding, especially when you unlock the expert mode at the end of the game. I remember we had a cheat book with all the passwords for all the stages, so I would just boot up the game, input the password of a stage that I wanted to play, and then just spend an afternoon flying around, and maybe get enough of a good score to move on. Even today, this is still my favorite version of Pilotwings, the perfect game to just vibe off and relax for an hour. A shame that this series never went beyond its intent as a tech demo, because it really deserved a full-fledged game on current consoles. At number 7 is SimCity. From one cozy game to another. SimCity is a game I spent countless hours on, despite being a kid which had zero clue on what building a city even meant. I'm pretty sure the first time I played the game I put stuff around at random just to see the pretty pictures. Thankfully, both my dad and my sisters were active gamers at the time, and they both helped me understanding how the game worked. In due time, I was able to build something proper, even if I was mostly copying what they were doing. And once the game clicked, the city started growing, I started receiving one present after the other, and the dopamine rush I felt whenever I reached a new milestone was exhilarating. The only issue with SimCity is that it's a very slow game, and if you're not careful you end up falling in the red very easily, and it could take a lot of time to get enough money to start building again. I remember sometimes my father used to leave the Super Nintendo running overnight, only to wake up the next day and find that half of the city ended up being leveled by a disaster. If I ever played the game today, I just used the money cheat in order to get things going faster. The only thing I never managed to do was getting to build a megalopolis, which required 500,000 citizens. It's something that's basically impossible to achieve by playing casually. You have to know everything about the game's inner workings, what affects growth population, and how to optimize every single stretch of land that you own in order to even hoping to get that far. I recommend H.C. Bailey's wonderful SimCity Let's Play if you want to learn more about that. My record was 420,000, and you know what? I am more than happy with that. This game is just a joy to chill out to. It looks fantastic, the music is wonderful, it feels good to see your city running smoothly, and that's more than I could ever ask for. And if you're looking to let out some steam, you can just load up a scenario, destroy the fire departments, and watch the city burn after activating all the disasters. This version of SimCity will always be my favorite management game ever. At number 6 is Killer Instinct. This was the game that introduced me to fighting games. I played it way before Street Fighter 2, and if I have to pick a favorite between the two, yeah, I have to go with Killer Instinct. This game was just insane. The music was kick-ass, the combos you could do were a spectacle to behold, and until you're coming out of this game and not having the announcer voice stuck into your head forever. The roster was also the wildest thing ever, especially when compared to Street Fighter. You have a guy made entirely out of flames, a raptor, a robot, a werewolf, a living skeleton. This roster is a 10-year-old's dream, and I say that with the utmost of praise. With that said, you probably noticed from the footage that despite playing this game since childhood, I'm still pretty terrible at it. In fact, I probably got worse with age. Fighting games have never been my strong suit, so landing a ultra combo is something that I don't feel will ever happen in my lifetime. The most I could get out of combos in this game was with Cinder, because he has a very easy one by spamming punch. I did manage to make it to Idol as a kid, believe it or not. Today, I don't think that it's likely to happen again. Still, I can't deny the impact this game had on me. Even if I'm never gonna be a good fighting game player, it was the spark that got me to enjoy the genre and try out other fighting games. Also, the cartridge for the game was black, so that immediately made it cooler than all the others in my collection. At number 5 is Tetris Attack. Christmas of 2000 was a very special one for me. I asked my parents for new Super Nintendo games because I was a dumb kid completely ignorant about the state of video game consoles at the time. Bless my parents though, they managed to find 2 games and this is one of them. Despite the title, it plays nothing like Tetris. It's a match-free game where you constantly move these racing pieces in order to create combos and clean the area. This game has a ton of modes between endless, stage clear and puzzle mode for those wanting to test their brains. But my favorite was versus mode, because the challenge of having to constantly keep up the pace with the computer, clean up your board and then chain as many combos as possible to load a ton of garbage pieces onto them was fun as hell. This game is just addicting. It's very easy to pick up and play, can be hard to master, and it's very satisfying to play once it gets going. The game also looks beautiful. Even if it's just a puzzle game, it has a ton of charm, and it's even better with its original version as paneled upon R. The music is some of my favorite on the system, very relaxing but also extremely tense when things get critical. This to me is the best Super Nintendo puzzle game. It's great for both single and multiplayer, and it's something I absolutely recommend to everyone. At number 4 is Donkey Kong Country 2. I was lucky enough to have the entire Donkey Kong Country trilogy growing up. 3 excellent platform games that go way beyond the novelty of their graphical style and give a very unique and fun experience that is gonna stick with you forever. But if I have to pick a favorite between them, yeah, it's definitely going to be the second game. This game was the perfect storm, Rareware at their peak on the Super Nintendo. It's ironic that the best Donkey Kong game really doesn't feature the title character. We got the introduction of Dixie and her spin glide, giving us 2 speedy characters to blast through the stages and have a ton of fun. The stages themselves also had the most variety in the series. While both 1 and 3 were pretty grounded in their design, the second game with its pirate setting decided to go all out with creativity. We go from pirate ships to volcanoes, haunted forests and mansions, an amusement park and the beehive stages, which are so strikingly gorgeous even today. And while going through all of this, you're accompanied by possibly the best soundtrack ever composed by David Wise. There isn't a single track in this game that isn't memorable, and even today it still receives callbacks all over the place. Definitely one of my favorite soundtracks of all time right here. This is also the hardest game in the trilogy. It kicked my ass to no end as a kid, especially stages like Toxic Tower. But I managed to beat it, and I also got 102% thanks to a couple of guides. Completion is really the only sour point I have with this game. Some secrets can be very cryptically hidden, and even today I still have trouble committing everything to memory. Still, it doesn't really hinder my experience with this game. I vastly prefer it over the other 2 games. But honestly, they're all great. Donkey Kong Country as a series is something that you absolutely owe yourself to play once if you're a fan of platformers. At number 3 is Super Castlevania 4. This game marked the beginning of my love for the Castlevania series. I was obsessed with this game as a kid. I played it all the time, trying desperately to reach the ending. I was in love with the atmosphere and the various monsters you would meet. I always wanted to see what was waiting for me in the next stage. It was my introduction to horror imagery and figures like Dracula, the Grim Reaper, the Frankenstein monsters, and even creatures like Medusa. It was also the first time I got really into a game soundtrack. I was humming these tunes all the time as a kid, and even today I listen to it pretty regularly. The game was just fun as hell to play, and it's all thanks to the weapons and the 8-directional whip that will also allow you to swing all over the place. Stuff like the rotating room and the swinging chandeliers still make me tense to all hell. I don't know why, it just triggers my vertigo or something fierce. The stage that gave me the most trouble was the one in the sewers. I hate stage 8 so much. Between the poison sludge and the spikes, I was dying all the time, and I got stuck into that stage for the longest time. I vividly remember the elation I felt when I was able to reach the final stage and finally be able to defeat Dracula after that long ass boss rush. Especially since I never saw anyone in my family be able to get that far, so to me, I was basically the only one that was able to finish the game. It was probably a child delusion, but still, they never corrected me on it. To this day, it's still my favorite classic Castlevania game. Everything is just tuned to perfection. The stages are wonderful and memorable, the music is some of the best in the series, and Simon controls like a dream. Yes, those controls make the game a lot easier than the rest of the series, but this also means this is the best place for everyone to start if it's the first time. So if you're curious about the Castlevania series, go play this game and get lost in this wonderful world. And number 2 is Super Mario World. Between this and Super Mario All-Stars, I had the time of my life with Mario games during my childhood, and it was really close in deciding what game to give the spotlight on. In the end, I decided to go with Mario World for one simple reason. This is my first video game I have ever played, at least for what I remember. I still have memories of my father coming home with the newly bought Super Nintendo, open the box to find the console, 2 controllers and this wonderful game packaged with it. Remember when physical games were in bundle with consoles? Good times. This game was something special, a family experience. We were constantly playing this together all the time, trying to uncover all the secret exits of all the stages, running back and forth, getting our favorite color Yoshi every time we lost it, and if we weren't actively trying to beat the game, we were playing random stages just for the fun of it, especially after the special when the entire world becomes Halloween themed. I feel this is the game I played the most ever in my life, and today I feel this is the perfect 2D Mario game. I just love how free flow it is, maybe unintentionally so because the feather is so broken, but it doesn't change the fact that I can play this game however I want. Get all the secret exits first, run to the special world first and then beat the game normally, or just play normally to the intended exits. It's completely open to the player, without any collectibles locking stuff out for completion's sake, and that's how I like it the best. This game will always have a special place in my heart, my favorite Mario game on my favorite console ever. A game that's pretty much the definition of nostalgic for me. Finally, at number 1 is Terranigma. And if you know me, you're not gonna be surprised by this entry in the slightest. Remember Christmas of 2000? This was the second game that I got coupled with Tetris Attack. I have no idea where my parents had to go to dig up this game, but bless them for trying because it became one of my favorite games of all time. The premise has struck with me since the very beginning. Just the concept of being this boy that has to bring the entire Earth back to life was something that I never heard of before and immediately got me hooked. There was a problem though. The language barrier. Back in the day, my knowledge of English was very basic, so most of the words in this game flew right over my head, which is a big problem in an RPG which expects you to decipher hints through dialogue. My experience with this game was mostly proceeding to a point where I got stuck, only to brute force my way forward by complete freaking accident, until I got to chapter 3 and things got way too convoluted for me. But even with all those setbacks, I was taken away by all these scenes of the world's resurrection. My jaw was dropping even if I was already exposed to 3D games on the first PlayStation. Eventually, with the times, my English improved, my experience got smoother, and a couple of guides helped me getting through the most cryptic parts of the game. That's when the story started hitting its best points, and I was completely enthralled by the narrative and the twists and turns it took. It was my very first time that I got to experience some of these narrative tropes, and my mind was just blown away by the story. I still think it holds up extremely well even today, even if some aspects are pretty much dated at this point. Also, the game was just fantastic to watch, exploring the twisted world outside of the village, being in awe by all the massive towers, and once you finally resurrect the Earth and you can explore the planet with all those greens and blues all over the place, it was just something magical to me. The soundtrack was also absolutely wonderful. Since the very beginning, the first notes of Crystal Village really stuck into my mind, and even today I still feel goosebumps by some of these pieces. This is Quintet's magnum opus, the culmination of all their work with the Super Nintendo and one of my favorite games of all time. It was the first game I ever recorded on the channel almost 15 years ago. It's one of the games I mention all the times to those looking for new obscure games to play. It's a shame that this game still isn't readily available for anyone to play. It's a very special game to me and I feel everyone should experience it at least once. 26 years later, and this is still my most cherished Super Nintendo game. Thank you, Terranigma. And that's my top 10 over and done with. It was my first time making a video more involved than a simple let's play, so I hope you all enjoyed it. I'll see if I can do stuff similar to this in the future for other subjects. I want to do something for the worst games in my library because I want to keep things positive here. If you want to see more stuff from me, subscribe to the channel. I do tons of let's plays all the time. Follow me on my blog where you can find more of my reviews about stuff I love and enjoy, link in the description. And also shout out to my close friend Ophelia Clearly, who's been a constant support with all these little projects of mine. Now it's your turn to tell me, what was your main childhood console and what were your favorite games on that console? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, thank you all for watching, take care of yourself everyone, and have a very wonderful day. I'll see you in the next video.